Hey everybody, this is Way to Fail here with a Scrolls live commentary of a ranked match between Haaro and the Real Dip, I believe is his name, if I'm pronouncing that right. It's an energy versus growth matchup. My understanding is that I think Haaro is actually streaming this right now, so this will be interesting to see if you watch his stream, which I've put a link in the description or somewhere in here. That just sort of his perspective versus mine sitting here. I did previously sit in on a game between these two, which Haaro took, and we'll see how it goes here. Because for a while, at least in the sort of old meta, growth made energy its bitch. But Haaro kind of has an interesting deck that relies on a lot of denial and some cards that I don't really see too often from energy. So we'll see how that goes. The Real Dip playing with a lot of new toys in the recent set for growth, but still some old standards like Better of the Wild for quick ramp, although he elects not to play the Ragged Wolf. Haaro, on the other hand, both these players play kind of quick, so I apologize if I have to step back. But one interesting card to me is Proximity Charge, which seems like a pretty good anti-growth card, except for the fact that it can get quaked down quite a bit, but it's good for denying some things. But Earthbound is one card that you'll see a little bit of. Enchanted, you cannot be moved by opponent. Enchanted unit's health is increased by 2. Not bad for making things grow, such as the Kinfolk Brave here. And you see I have the mod that shows on mouse over what enchants are actually going on. But Haaro, this is a pretty standard energy structure deck, which used to be kind of the go-to for this, but it relies a lot on big structures to defend things like the Solemn Giant, just to do slow piddling damage over time, and otherwise using a lot of energy's hard removal to take out the other deck. And I guess what it fears, like most energy decks, is if growth holds on to its quakety quakes, which of course, I mean, that's growth. It's like you quake or you don't quake, but there's a lot of ways that you can try and avoid direct damage from energy, but there's only so much you can do without actually throwing up their structures. And Quake is a really good card against structures. I don't know if it made any sense at all. I'm sorry about that. But right there we have the Proximity Charges, which are going to ruin the Kinfolk Brave's day. It's 4 damage, regardless. So there's a Vengeful Vetter, which is going to be playing defense for the Kinfolk Brave. Now, the Real Dip, the last game I watched, actually, he was a little bit not caring about any Thunder Surges that Haaro has in his hand. So I wonder if he's going to learn his lesson a little bit this time. But Haaro playing with just one creature out so far, the Hired Smuggler, which is really nice in a structure deck because if it can do damage, that's pillage here. And he's probably going to let it pillage instead of exposing it to the Vengeful Vetter. Then that's going to be another structure card that he can get out. But right now he's trying to ramp his resources, I'm sure. And Ether Pump would not be a terrible play here. Another Proximity Charge, maybe not so great. But he does want to get out the Solemn Giant, I'm sure. Haaro does run Machination Mindset, so that would give the Solemn Giant Relentless and can be very scary, especially once you get about 6 to 10 resources. Hell, you can make him hasted at 10, because that's not expensive at all. But here we go, Haaro thinking out his thoughts, I'm sure probably talking it through to the people watching his stream, and he's electing to go for the Vengeful Vetter, and he's just dropping Proximity Charges in front. So that means the Kinfolk Brave is going to die, because you can't stop it from attacking. You can only hope to contain it, unless he does Earthborn Mystic. No, that won't do anything. He gets 2 Quakes. That's really good against a structure deck, but unfortunately, right now, Haaro really holding serve right here, as he gets a State Machine as well, which is an amazing card against a lot of the low creatures that growth likes to throw out. Just good in general. Now, Haaro I have not seen using Inferno Blast, but he does use Charge Coil, he does use Ether Pumps. So that's lots of little 1 damages that can go out here. So State Machine, and that State Machine's kind of in a position where the Vengeful Vetter could put 2 damage on it. But the other side of the coin is that this Hired Smuggler is going to be able to do something back. Actually, in fact, this State Machine is going to die immediately. Alright, so that's a good top deck for the Kinfolk Veteran. Haaro without too much going on, and I believe that these are token structures. I'm not sure if token structures actually activate Machine Chant. I apologize for my lack of knowledge for how Proximity Charge works with energy, but you don't really see it, or at least I haven't seen it played too often recently. But Haaro, plenty of defensive cards here. Right now, he's not too worried. He's going to let growth kind of get out his stuff, but the Real Dip is holding on to a double Quake. So if the Real Dip can hold on to that for long enough, he can make things work. Now, the State Machine did do some work against the Kinfolk Veteran, because now, there's the Quake, and I'll be honest with you, I think that Quake was a little too early. Because what did that Quake do? It took out 3 token structures, it took out 1 creature that could draw some scrolls if it wanted to, and it put some damage on the Ether Pump. Personally, if I was playing against Energy, I'd hold on to that Quake as long as possible, as long as I could use it. Right now, those proximity charges, they may be denying lanes, but they're not actually doing anything. And since the Real Dip had already played Haaro, he knows Haaro is playing a lot of structures. And if you know your Energy player is playing a lot of structures, damn it, you want to hold on to something that's going to deal with those structures as efficiently as possible. And right there, I call that Quake relatively inefficient. But the Real Dip enchanting his Veteran with Earthbound, so at least it's not necessarily going to die to a lot right away. But Hatharo's got to like that that Quake was mainly to take out 3 procs charges. And he's playing a useless contraption as well, because that's just some defense to throw up. But notice this is the 1 Quake's gone, let's get all this stuff out here. Now this Charge Coil could get Quaked as well, if the Real Dip's going to get twitchy with his Quakes, and it looks like he is. Like I said, I'm not the biggest fan of those Quakes. You can actually hold on to those for quite a bit longer, and maybe try and get more stuff on the board, take care of more things at once. Of course, the counter argument to that is that you don't want the Energy player to get out the creature that buffs machines, and I apologize, they just brain farted on the name of it, and I hate that. But here we go. He is going to be doing a full board clear, so can't really complain, but we are getting into... you can't really complain too much about the Real Dip's play so far, because he does have a board control, but if you look at the size of the hands, Hatharo's just been holding on to cards, letting the Real Dip spend his resources as much as he can, and this is where the game for Energy playing a structure deck is that they really, really want to slow down their opponent, and Dip here has already gotten his 3rd Quake, so right now this slowdown is not going to be doing too much. These creatures are going to get quaked, or these structures are going to get quaked, but that'll actually hurt the Real Dip as well, because remember, Quake hurts everybody on the board. They have not changed that. That is the actual counter side to Quake, as many people say nerf Quake, but there is a nice card, Sudden Eruption, which is a really, really good combo there. You saw the Sudden Eruption, which will do and let me just focus on the card real quick, Surge, which means that any excess mana is the number of creatures that it hits multiple creatures, and then you got the 1 extra damage on the Charge Coil, because there's only 1 creature left. So no State Machine, the Real Dip getting out as many things as possible, drawing more cards with his sisters. Rallies don't really do him a lot of good right now. He could Machine Chant, I don't think that'd be a great idea, but he could. He could Sudden Eruption, I don't think that'd be a great idea, because these are net 0 cards, and honestly not huge threats, where especially everything's going to zap all at once with the Charge Coil. So there we go, he's just pumping out some automatons. Got to remember to not block the production for the Automata Forge, though. So, Dip, what has he got? He has an Ancestral Totem. He's actually playing with Underdog Spite. All units you control the attack 2 or less count down by 1. So that does get everybody going here. That's good for weenie decks, but there's the Quake. And unfortunately, that Quake actually clears his board too, and there's the Surrender. Alright, well, that's a little bit unfortunate that the game went that short, but I think maybe where that game could have gone a little bit better for him is if he had held on to his Quakes instead of constantly destroying his creatures. So I do want to follow Haaro a little bit and see if maybe we can get as we have the Real Dip, who's constantly questioning his play just a little bit. I saw that a bit in the last game too. But, I mean, that last game was kind of indicative of the game before, where you have a growth player who says, I have Quake, will travel, and you don't necessarily want to use the Quake right away. And that's really what it boils down to. So I do want to, like I said, I do want to see if I can get Haaro one more time, but unfortunately, with how this goes, we could actually just have a little bit of waiting here. So let's see if we can get another ranked match here. Why not go with one that's just kind of starting here between Sugar Bear and Dead Akaba, or Dead Akba. Let's see what this is. This is Growth versus Growth Decay. So we have a double feature. Yay! All kinds of things on the board already, as this is your Growth with plenty of things. Wetland Ranger, that's the buff that gives 1 attack for every time it pillages. So we have Growth on both sides. Outcast Rebel, Sister of the Fox, Brother of the Wolf. And maybe this game's going to go a bit faster, maybe it won't. Growth versus Growth tends to boil down to who gets cards a little bit harder. But this is a ranked match, and Dedekaba is playing a Growth Decay deck, which I'm not exactly sure if it's standard, but we're going to be seeing probably some interesting things out of it. Looks like both players playing a little bit of weenie decks. Here's Earthborn Mystic. When its countdown zeroes out, it's countdown to draw an enchant scroll if you want to, or just increase attack, or increase by 1. So this is a good wall, but better if you can do other things with it. So the Fertile Soil for Sugar Bear, and I don't know anything about either of these players' decks. So this will be interesting to see kind of how this works out. The brother of the wolf is going to die. And the question is, does Sugar Bear want to protect his Earthborn Mystic with the Kinfolk Ranger? Now, it looks like the answer to that riddle is no. So there is the attack, Shazam. And does daaba have an answer to this? He could put up a scavenger construct. I mean, that's a thing that he can do. But we'll see here. He does get all of his units in a line. It looks like he's showing that he has something that unfortunately he doesn't have. So sacrifice for resources. We have 1 decay, and it looks like it's going to be Mangy Wolf Scavenger Construct right away. So the good thing about Scavenger Construct is that when things die around it, it gains 2 health. Works really well with Omnivore, but that's kind of a combo that you have to hope that you have in your hand, and that's not really a great thing to hope for in a dual deck like this. Although if he has a draw focus growth curve, or a growth side, it's possible, but you never know. So Sugar Bear right here is going to be a Sugar Bear. That's just funny for me to say for some reason. Now, there is plenty of options that he does have. He is actually sacking the Kinfolk Veteran, which is an interesting move for this. And he's playing with some enchantments such as Champion Ring, which I used to call Championship Ring, and Wetland Ranger, which is a very nice pillage card. But right now what he probably wants to do is to get some harder attacks on the board. He could actually take out the Mangy Wolf. That may be the biggest threat. The Outcast Rebel. He attacks slow, but all daaba needs is a rally to make that work a little bit better. But even then, Sugar having a little bit more in his hand and having to think pretty hard about what he wants to do. He could try and drop some breakers. Breakers have a tendency to die really fast because of the 3 health, but they're a little bit harder for growth to kill than other resources. So he's going to drop 1 breaker. Is he going to drop both, or is he going to play Underdog Spite? Not really a great reason to play Underdog Spite, to be honest, because the Kinfolk Brave is there, but the Vengeful Vet is still pretty good. And he's actually going to pillage with that to try and ramp his resources even more. So ignoring the Mangy Wolf, right move at this point. Scavenger Construct goes up to 5 health, and daaba, this is going to be nice to Fertile Soil the Ragged Wolf to get a little bit more resources, or not resources, but cards are good. Buffing the Scavenger Construct for free is nice as well, but right now, not really the cards he wants. Return to Nature would be really, really nice to play right now with the setup that Sugar Bear has. But he's going to play Mire Shambler instead, because unfortunately that's 1 health per turn, and he could actually ramp his resources a little bit, but not too much. So now daaba has some fun on his hand. He could play Champion Ring and get rid of this Mangy Wolf. He actually has a Rat King as well. Question is he just going to go for board control, or is he going to go for something a little more? Because what he probably wants to do is try and protect his breakers as much as possible. Those things don't do... They're magnets for aggro, you could say. But, I mean, it's interesting to see. You used to not see a lot in the way of enchants and growth, because growth has some really nice enchants. But the problem is that things tend to die. Scrolls is a kind of game where enchants are not as great unless you can get some value out of them the turn that you play them, and even then cards tend to die soon thereafter. So it's nice to see enchant making a little bit more of a comeback, and also fun to see some players maybe playing with some decks that aren't exactly what everybody's playing at the very top, because there is a lot of scrolls going on, not just at the tippy top, but another Earthborn Mystic, which is very nice, and pretty much what it looks like he's doing is just protecting his units as much as possible from the impending Outcast Rebel. And there is a Quake that daaba cannot use, but could get a lot of mileage out of. It would be fantastic if he could Quake Return to Nature combo, because that would actually wombo and take out practically everything. Whew, but that's not going to be this turn, and unfortunately, if he wants to play the Great Wolf, he's going to have to get rid of 1 of these. So, and that's kind of the position you run yourself into sometimes. So getting rid of the Great Wolf, getting a Fertile Soil, which is really nice for the Mire Shambler, just to get more cards. So Fertile Soil, this wall is up to 11, and 2 Return to Natures. He might as well play 1 Return to Nature just to destroy 1 card. As there we go, Return to Nature, for those of you who have not played in a long time, is no longer the entire board. It's now a 7 hex radius, or 7 hex circle. Daaba playing with Puppet Soldier Quake, which is an interesting combo as well. Alright, so what's Sugar Bear going to do here? He has some options available to him. He can he clear the board? He can't clear the Scavenger Construct, but he can clear the threats. What he doesn't know, or maybe what he's worried about, is the fact that there is going to be a Quake coming, and that's going to hurt his day a little bit. What he doesn't necessarily know is that, well, okay, Daaba, what he's done is he's tipped his hand a little bit that there is actually a return to nature. So what Sugar Bear ideally will do is move his cards around so that he avoids a more devastating return to nature. Because right now, the way his cards are set up, the Quake can actually take out both of his breakers, and he would be a sad panda. Or bear. I don't know. There's all kinds of Sugar Bears out there. But the rallying has to be tempting. That does open up the possibility of a board clear. Especially if the the Wetland Ranger attacks first. So he's going to get his creatures out, and he is setting himself really well for Daaba's hand. Unfortunately for Sugar Bear. Unless he can do something big. Still, he does have plenty of options here. He does save some resources, but right now the breakers are going to be getting a little bit more health, but chances are they're going to... One of them's going to be getting Return to Nature and then Quaked this turn. That play really helps Daaba and will clear a lot of this board. Otherwise, Daaba's going to have to figure out something else that he can come back with. So there's the Quake, and the Return to Nature is going to take out... Actually, it's going to take out everything but the Wetland Rangers, so ouch for Sugar Bear. That is not good. Do we have a chat comment right here? No, we just have me watching this game. Yay, okay. Well, what do we got in response here? Because this game just slowed down significantly. We have Rat King, we have Kinfolk Ranger, we have the Striped Fang Bear, one of my favorite new cards here. As long as the opponent controls any human, Striped Fang Bear is relentless and attack of the 3 is increased because bears are... scary. So once again, Sugar Bear, you gotta, and this is where I guess maybe the theme of the day is between these two games, is that you kind of gotta pay attention to the cards your opponent is playing. If you see somebody play a Thunder Surge, and I know you didn't see that in the game I was watching, I saw in the game before, you see, it's kind of one of those, you fool me once, damn it, move my cards around. Fool me twice, he got Return to Nature 2 turns in a row and kept his units clumped. That's play that you can clean up. That's something you can live and learn from. It's something that I'd personally like to see Sugar Bear do a little bit more in the game as it's in progress. Because right now, Daaba has just quaked his way back into this game. Because as I always say with Quake, it's all about the follow-up. And right now, let's see here. Sugar Bear could rally. Is rallying a great move right now is the question. Because he could rally and possibly... He's not going to take out the Great Wolf here, which means that if... And that's kind of the rub or worry, is that if he doesn't take out the Great Wolf here, it could go relentless and go nuts, depending on Daaba's hand. But it is hiding behind the Scavenger Construct. So let's see, what do we got? 2 players enter, 1 player leave. Sugar Bear thinking significantly about his turn. He's put himself in a very tough situation. I know he has to know it. What you worry about it at this point is he going to go tilt? And right now, maybe he should just start going for the equivalent of a base race here and not worry so much about all these units up here, because he does have a lot of little things. He doesn't have a God Hand in hand. But there's the Scavenger Construct going up there. Everybody's attack is going up. And Daaba with his own Earthborn Mystic. Just in the nick of something, but he also has a Ragged Wolf and a Mangy Wolf, so he can actually take his pick, because that's going to up this attack to 5. He can clear either of these rows. And actually, it's a Boghound as well, which has Dominion attack too, but you have to actually kill an idol to get Dominion, and he's not anywhere near that. But does a Boghound count as a wolf? Does not. It counts as a beast. So we have all of these. The cooldowns drop down by 1, and he's just going to take out the Wetlands Ranger to deny the attack buff in the following turns. So let's hear, what does Sugar Bear do here now? He has a lot of walls to fight through, to punch through. And if he doesn't do enough damage, there's... The Cobb is eventually going to come over the top. So there's a Striped Fang Bear. It's going to get extra attack And does he rally here, I guess is the first question. Because if he rallies, what he should do is take out the top row. And I'm worried that he's thinking about the wall instead. There's the rally. And okay, now that's the problem here because I'm mathematically challenged. Because of the way the addition currently is, he's not actually going to take out the Great Wolf. So my bad on the addition. That's why live commentary is fun for all of this. So running the numbers, he will be able to take out the Scavenger Construct, and he won't be able to take out an idol, but he will expose it. Unfortunately, both players down to one card, and unfortunately for daaba, not actually taking out the Mangy Wolf could be bad because it will heal up next turn. And depending on what daaba can draw here, he could play a Great Wolf. He actually sacrifices the Great Wolf. I don't necessarily agree with that. He is gunning for the Omnivore combo, which is nice to get because that's going to draw him a lot of cards, and you like getting that with the Scavenger Construct. It will always gain 1 health instead of 2. But I would have really liked to see the second Great Wolf to have multiple wolves. Having them all out at once is a very, very frightening thing. But right now, little owls are great to have around the Scavenger Construct Omnivore. And because growth has no hard removal, this is why I was saying before, it could have been better in Sugar Bear, or it could have been in Sugar Bear's better interest to actually kind of ignore the top of the board and work his way down the bottom. Of course, he'd have to deal with the top eventually. Maybe Sister of the Fox will give him some good fortune. Fertile Soil's not bad. He's actually sacrificed the Sister of the Fox instead of playing it and sacrificing a card from there, meaning he really wants to keep Underdog Spite, although he doesn't have a lot of cards on the board that really benefit from it too much. But if he had played it last turn, he could have possibly taken out the Mangy Wolf here. But that would have denied some other plays. So what is Sugar Bear going to do? Is he going to try to go for massive damage? Right now he unfortunately has his creatures in a position where Underdog Spite cooldown by 1. Once again, we have the issue of this Great Wolf is not going to die. This Great Wolf is going to be down to 1 health. It's like he's always just 1 health short. And as much as he'd like to use the Fertile Soil, I guess he's not going to be able to use it this turn. So that Wolf's attack will decrease a little bit. Unfortunately, daaba does get another card, and he can Fertile Soil to actually get 3 cards, or 4 cards, net of 3 cards because of this. And there's a Crone. Crone's better against growth than other things, at least. Eternal Statue, not an optimal card, but I mean that's what you get in this level of play. You don't necessarily get perfect cards. You don't necessarily get everything else, and I guess that's part of the fun of the double features, that you get to see some different things from different people. The reason I say Eternal Statue is not as fantastic as that. Structures are good for denial, and it does heal 1 every turn, but typically 4 damage is not super difficult to punch through. So Great Wolf now hiding behind this. Oak Blood is fun to have, especially on a Striped Fang Bear. Especially with growth not having hard removal. And I guess the question now is, what does Sugar Bear do? Does he actually put Oak Blood on this, or does he put Oak Blood on the Kinfolk? Personally, I think the 4 attack Relentless is really good. Unfortunately, with the Crone there, that's gonna kill some things and hurt just a little bit. Now he could sacrifice the Kinfolk Ranger to make that work, but right now the bigger issue for Sugar Bear is that he's kind of set in a bad place. Where at turn 15 the game stalled just a little bit. Yes, he still has more idols right now, but the Scavenger Construct is just going to be a card mill at this point, and that's not good. So Stagheart on the Kinfolk Brave. It looks like we have 1 enchant, and we're going to have maybe a breaker, maybe something else. I don't know at this point. So there's the breaker down at the bottom. Breaker's a little bit exposed, and there's another card. That's nearly a 20 health Scavenger Construct. 2 more Sisters of the Owl to play. He actually is playing Essence Feast, which is a card that you don't see played really at all, despite the fact that Mojang has tried to get it going. And there's another Quake. Once again, God Hand and Quake. This could be Sugar Bear's demise right here, especially since this Great Wolf at 1 health still does the same amount of damage. Now Crone doesn't attack, so it doesn't benefit from God Hand. So right away, Mystic down, multiple creatures hurt. The bear getting down really hurts. And that's where Oak Blood could have helped tremendously, because you want Relentless things to maybe punch through. Can't punch through a crone, though, that little claw stick. But what does Sugar Bear have now? He has Oak Blood. And he's going to play another bear, and now he's finally going to start going for the bottom of the board just a little bit. Trying to take down the bottom here. There's still one idle health over here. Sugar Bear with a Quake, or no, daaba with a Quake. I am now confusing these people. And a second Omnivore, if he wants to put it on the Scavenger Construct. Looks like he's going to. And because there's no penalty for cycling through your cards, that's just going to be all the cards for daaba, Sister of the Owl. This is just starting to overwhelm the board. And this is, like I said before, this is a game where Sugar Bear had it until he didn't. He had massive board control until he let himself get Return to Nature a second time. And that's where you've got to just be aware of what your opponent's doing instead of tunneling into your own strategy. So what Sugar Bear have? A Vengeful Vetter, he's top decking at this point. Rallying is a good card. Rallying could solve some of his problems. He does have enough resources to Rat King rally. And what would that benefit? He's going to give this a lot of cards. He can actually use one rat to get rid of the crone. Or, yeah, it would be 2 rats, actually. Which could be useful. But getting rid of the Earthborn Mystic might be more important because you do not want to... You don't want to let him draw enchantments if you don't have to. So kind of an interesting 2-take here. It looks like he's going to go with the Rat King play. Which, once again, this Great Wolf is causing serious problems because it has been at 1 health for a long time. I don't know if Sugar Bear's playing with Quake or not. Looks like he's not, but if he rallies here, he's going to be hoping that the scrolls beings or whatever bless him with good draws here. But at this point, he's kind of backed into a corner, doesn't have another play. Unfortunately, he could be running 2 creatures into the crone and killing, or not killing them both, but when it's destroyed in melee combat, that means this Brave's going to die. I don't like that trade, because it gives daaba a card as well. Or 2 cards, actually, because there's multiple Omnivores, and they're just going to be stuck at 19 health. So this is down to 1 health now. So Sugar Bear running out of time. Is just look at all those cards. daaba with 9 cards in his hand. That's where, if you let this live long enough, it's going to be good. And there's another Return to Nature. There's actually a Harvester as well. Oh, this could get a little ugly in a second, especially if he Harvester Quakes, which is a viable play. It's not going to clear the entire board, but it's going to come really damn close. He also has Essence Feast, which is not fantastic. There's a Sister, and there's a Ragged Wolf as well. So all kinds of stuff for I keep confusing these players for daaba. The card mill is working pretty damn well for him. The question now is, what is he going to do with his resources? Looks like he's not going for the Harvester Quake, not wanting to get rid of the card advantage or the board advantage that he does have, although he could do pretty substantial damage with everything. Getting out the second Great Wolf, finally, which is good. Return to Nature, what does that do for him? It drops down some health. So here we go. Creatures are dying. The Oak-Blooded Kinfolk Brave is still there, but all it's going to do is hit the Sister of the Fox. There's an Earthborn Mystic that does nothing. Vengeful Veteran, Kinfolk Ranger. Sugar Bear is fallen behind, and now it's just daaba's time to take the game. He has 8 resources, or he has 8 cards. Lots of resources. The Decay is playing really well for him. He's just hugging the Scavenger Construct, which is going to be at 19 health forever until it gets quaked like 5 times. But once again, I think I would have seen Quake in Sugar Bear's card by now. But this is where, if you can get massive card advantage, that's good. Sugar Bear finally going for Idols, but it's just too late. He can actually Fertile Soil if he wants to, just to get even more cards. Because look at that hand. That's not enough cards. And I guess the question now is, what does he want to do here? He actually, for all the cards that he does have, he doesn't have a God Hand or a Rally. So he doesn't necessarily have an immediate solution, short of dropping the Crone down here. Oh wait, Mangy Wolf! Look at all these cards that I can't see. This is going to be a nasty sorry for the coughs all of a sudden. Nasty board clear, especially if he plays the Ragged Wolf. There's the Return to Nature. There is just a devastating set of events. Please move that Great Wolf down to do some damage here. There we go. And he has one resource left. He could play the Ragged Wolf as well, just for shits and giggles, for extra damage all around. And look at that, a 1 health Great Wolf does just as much damage as everything else, and we're actually going to be getting the GG here because Sugar Bear surrenders. And that doesn't surprise me because he was ahead for so long, and unfortunately for him, he just fell behind. But that's what happens. You have the early game under control and you see your opponent do something. Sometimes it's better to react than maybe try and bully your units and get things going. So what have we learned today from watching Scrolls is that you don't necessarily have to have the top cards to have an interesting game or an interesting deck. But there's always things you can do to clean up your play. I know that I constantly will watch my games again to try and clean up my play, but sometimes you just got to know the cards, see maybe what your opponent's doing. When you see him pull out Decay like this with Growth, you got to expect some things are going to be coming up. And card advantage is paramount. Daaba getting that many cards in his hand is just demoralizing, especially when Growth doesn't have a great way to deal with the Scavenger construct early. So like I said before, it's an unreliable combo because you can't always guarantee you'll get the Omnivore Scavenger construct. But when you get it and it works really well. So that's it for now. This is Way to Fail with a double feature of Scrolls today. So I hope you all enjoy that. 2 very different games. 2 games that ended in surrender, but what can you do? That's live commentary. Hope you enjoyed it. I will see you all next time.